Hi everyone, my name is Vince Gellman. Thank you for visiting my YouTube channel and watching this video. I want to speak about the vulnerability of the healing journey, how much it asks of us to courageously embark on it. I've done, I think 23 years of intensive work on myself, and even after exploring so many modalities and being brought to my knees so many times, in recent weeks and months, I am going into new levels of grief, new levels of fear I didn't even know existed. Um, and I'm amazed. I'm amazed. I'm like, wow, how did I not know about this fear after all those years, after a couple of decades of doing all this work on myself? How did I not know that that existed? And we hear people often when they've done lots of work on themselves, they'll say, God, I thought I dealt with that. There's more. And so, I go through this period where we go through another spell of darkness, another spell of uncertainty, another spell of big emotions, big grief, fear. And yet if we can move through that courageously and vulnerably, if we can allow it to bring us to our knees, then we come through the other side into a new version of ourselves, an expanded version that creates more room for compassion, for humility, for our raw humanity. And that has been my experience. I feel I've changed so much over the last 5-6 months. I've been on a very intense rite of passage, and I love who I am now. I love how much more softness there is in my system, how much more grace there is, how much more I know people can feel me in my heart because of how willing I have been to go into the dark, to go into those fears, and of course to come out the other side. It is not easy. It truly is a hero's journey. It is not easy. It asks far more out of us than we could have possibly imagined when we started this journey. It asks far more, and those of you who are on the journey know this. It's so much bigger than we thought. But that's because we are so much bigger than we thought. That's the thing. It's so much bigger because we are so much more loving, so much more powerful. We have so much more grace and compassion and wisdom in us than we could have possibly imagined. But that also means that we have to go into a depth that we couldn't have imagined to discover all of that. And in that depth, we find the darkness. In that depth, we find the fear. We find the doubt. We find the shame, the anger, all the things that we didn't realize we were covering up all that time. It's there, and so to get to the light of who we are, to embody that higher self, that higher light in our body, to live from it, we do need to go through the dark. This is what's happening in the world right now. Collectively, we are being brought to our knees. We are going through what I would call an evolutionary catalyst, this pandemic, that calls forth the light in all of us. That's what difficult times do. That's what adversity does, is that it calls forth the light. It calls forth the next version of you, the next expanded, more loving, more wise, more compassionate version of you. I know we can go through incredible transformations through positive experiences such as the birth of a child. But I know from my own experience, I've grown far more through when things are difficult than when things are going smoothly and according to my plans. And so adversity often brings us to this place of vulnerability. It opens the doorway into our healing journey if we're willing to take it. But we need to be prepared that it's going to be much more than we thought. And of course, we can go as far as we want to go on that journey. But it's going to ask a lot if we keep going. And it's going to take a lot of vulnerability. Not just the vulnerability of of feeling. But the vulnerability of uncertainty, of stepping into the uncertainty of who I am as a person because I'm releasing so much of who I thought I was. That's what I'm grieving away, is the person I thought I was, including so much of the fear and the doubt that I identified with, the self-limiting beliefs, the limiting view I'd had on myself. To release all that is very vulnerable, because then who am I? Then who am I? It's vulnerable because we walk away from certain people, certain relationships, certain jobs, maybe a whole community of people, or a location or a job. We walk away, and so it takes a huge amount of courage, and it's very vulnerable. But what we're doing when we walk away both within ourselves from who we thought we were and from those things outside of us that we no longer identify with, is that we do create the space for something else to come in. And that's the light of truth. That's the light of you to come in and reorganize your life around this new version of you that is anchoring into your body. It's no small feat. It's no small feat. And I commend you, assuming you are on this journey, I commend you for traveling it, for sticking with it. And to know that it's going to, I commend you for most likely knowing that it's going to ask even more out of you. It's going to bring you to your knees again and again and again. But just know that there's beauty on the other side. There's beauty on the other side. It's a really, for me personally, as someone who grew up feeling quite hard, quite edged, quite boundaried, quite insensitive because of my trauma, to feel this level of grace in my system, to feel this level of calmness and gentleness, to feel myself as a gentleman. We don't think of that. Gentleman means a man who's gentle, who's become gentle in a world full of men who've become hardened. To feel that is so rewarding, and it makes the journey so worthwhile. So just know that in the depth of vulnerability, there's a purpose. It's not just for you to have a difficult experience. It's not just for you to weep and weep and weep, but it is to open you to that which is on the other side, to a new depth of you, a grace, like I said, and then there's just so much more of you to give. And more so, as you become softened, as you become vulnerable, as you open up to the light of your higher self, you can now then be used by Spirit as a vessel of light to be in service of others. That is what softening does. Softening through the crucible of vulnerability, through the crucible of healing, softens us to such an extent that we can be receptive, because it's harder to be receptive if we're hard. We can be receptive to the impulses of life. We can be receptive to the whispers of life, the nudges of life, to how life wants to use us. And that is a deep bow to life, a deep bow to life that can only come from the surrendering of who we thought we were, and by going into the vulnerability that comes with that surrendering, that deep vulnerability of I don't know, the deep vulnerability of I'm afraid, the deep vulnerability of who am I now, the deep vulnerability of where do I even fit in now or belong, the deep vulnerability of I don't know where I'm going, the deep vulnerability of even who are my friends now. Deep questioning, deep emptying, but in the emptying of the chalice that you are, there becomes a filling. There becomes a filling. And that's, of course, deeply fulfilling. And then you can fulfill a higher mission because your cup is so full. Your chalice is so full that you can now give back in ways and be used in ways you never thought imagined. And that's where the magic of life really takes off. But there's an initiation, there's a rite of passage that I've spoken about. here in this video. So I wanted to just speak about this today to acknowledge you for the courage of emptying, the courage of feeling. And I send you my blessings and my prayers to keep going, and to keep remembering that when it's dark, there's light just around the corner. You know, it's darkest before the dawn. The stars are brightest when it is darkest. So know that there's light just there in those darkest of moments. We just have to stay with it. We just have to be willing to be courageous enough to go into the vulnerability, to find a newfound sense of self, a newfound sense of light, and to anchor that in. And that is really, truthfully, all we want anyways. That's all we long for, is that light. Everything that we try to get to have is a poor man's version of that light. It's the light that we long for more than anything. It's the light we long for more than anything. So thank you for watching. Please subscribe. Please subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Click notifications. There'll be more to come. And if you need any support with your healing journey, I heal people using the power and the mystery of starlight. And I'll put a link in the description, and you're more than welcome to contact me. I work with people all over the world. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Take care.